Great way to start. Welcome to Chief Joyce Dugan Cultural Arts Center on the Cherokee Central Schools campus. Our appreciation to Jay Winchester and Cherokee Central Schools, Chris McCoy from the Tribal Communications Office, Lisa Frady from Destination Marketing, Mike Parker from the Commerce Department, Doug Pheasant, and the officers of the Cherokee Police Department. We'd like to thank the Vice Chief candidates for agreeing to participate tonight. The candidates for Vice Chief are Alan B. Inslee and Jim Al. On behalf of the event organizers, we wish to each of you well on your campaigns. There will be no opening statement from the candidates. The moderator will sit at a table with the timekeeper. The moderator is the only person who will ask questions, and the questions will come from a predetermined list compiled by the Cherokee One Feather based on community feedback. The public via social media, phone, email, and the Cherokee One Feather staff were the sources for the questions. There will also be a staff at a table for community members to write specific questions regarding their communities or other tribal issues at the event. Community questions will be vetted for appropriateness by members of the COF editorial board prior to being brought to and read by the moderator. The candidates are not to respond to any verbal questions offered by the audience during the debate. We also ask that the audience not react audibly to any comments made by the candidates in the interest of time and in respect of the hosts and the candidates. There will be time at the end of the session for the audience to appreciate the candidates. The moderator will recognize a specific candidate to address a question. Once a question is asked, each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond. Each candidate will be allowed an additional 1 minute to address any follow-up. Once formal questions are concluded, vetted questions from the community will be asked. Up to 8 community questions will be asked in the 3-minute, 1-minute rebuttal structure. After questioning, the candidates will have 5 minutes each to make closing statements. When all candidates have concluded their closing statements, the moderator will thank the candidates and close the debate. And we'll start the questioning now. First question is for you, B. Do you think people incarcerated on drug charges should be required to do community service cleanup while they are in jail, included syringe pickup?
Yes, I do think they need to do community service work. I've advocated for years that people incarcerated by the tribe do community service work. I think it's a little different with the syringe pickup. I think there needs to be proper training and everything given to the incarcerated members if that's the case. But I do agree with community service work.
Thank you, B. Jim?
Yes, I think we need to sit down with the Chief Justice Council. We need to look at ways to get inmates out to clean up our town and roadways. We've advocated this for years and years, and I think we need to get this accomplished and put out there. We also need to monitor these cleanups also. Look closely for drugs, not being able to come back into the jail and do individual searches on each inmate as they return to the jail, because they could have people that's planning these out there on the routes that they take. So we need to make sure we're aware of that also. Their syringe cleanup, I mean, we need to make sure that maybe in the syringes, maybe we need to number those syringes so we know who's throwing them out the windows or putting them out somewhere. We see them all the time. I seen them when I was weed eating my yard. I seen them when I was weed eating my sister-in-law's yard. I mean, I hate to say that, but these are getting thrown out in all different places. And, you know, you get someone to go out and clean these up, you know, they could get injured or get poked or something. So we need to make sure that, you know, either we number these syringes going out or they're taken and put them in these disposable boxes. So I support this wholeheartely.
Thank you, Jim. B, an additional minute?
Yeah, I think the syringe program that the tribe has already put in place, we need to do a better job educating people on the syringe program. They do keep track of how many syringes they provide to the people who's in need of them and collect them, and the syringe boxes, they monitor them closely. But it's an educational piece that we've got to educate our people more, and we need to let the people know why we approved the syringe program. It was I can't think of the medical reason why we did it, but there was a medical reason. I can't think of what it was now. But it's a very serious medical issue, and it helps combat that issue, and that's why that's why I supported the syringe program. So Hep C is the disease, so it helps combat that. So.
Thank you, B. Jim, an additional minute?
Yeah, I think education is key on the syringes. I think education should come maybe while the inmates are in jail. I mean, we have to educate them somewhere, so they need to learn that if they are doing this, using this, they need to put them in the disposable boxes or dispose of them somehow. I mean, there's other disposable places on the boundary, so.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, this next question is yours. What constitutes a reasonable return on investment for economic diversification opportunities? Please speak to specific strategies. Include your thoughts on ecotourism, solar and wind power.
Yeah, we need to work with our LLC board that's in place on economic diversification. The council, the chiefs, they need to sit down with them and talk about it. We have to go out and find these projects. I mean, a lot of these projects are not going to come to us, so we have to work on these projects. I think we have a lot of projects on the table now through council that they've put in place, so we need to go ahead and try to go after those and build those projects, look at ways that we don't rely on the casino wholeheartedly. We need to look at the return on investment on each project and how quickly the turnaround can be before any purchase. Local purchase can create more jobs for enrolled members here, as well as deeded properties. They can create jobs off the boundary also. We need to look at more revenue for the tribe, similar to what the Porch Creek Indian tribes have done, the Seminole Indian tribe, the Cherokee Nation. We need to take a look at those and see how they got out and diversified their economy. Ecotourism, we have the natural resources to do all these businesses right here in our backyard. Zip lines, ATV trails, bike trails. We have our trout fishing that's already here, hiking trails. This will bring in more family-oriented business for the tribe also, and we always talk about trying to get the families back into Cherokee, so we need to continue to pursue that. Solar power and wind, there have been studies done on tribal properties on solar and wind. I think there was some wind studies that were done on one of the towers here, and they said that they could put wind turbines there. There was enough wind there to put those turbines there at one time, but the solar farm that was placed at Valley River, you know, they've placed it there at the Valley River Casino. That thing has helped us about $8,000 to $10,000 per month that the solar farm has provided for us in our electrical bill for the casino. So it's about an 8% savings each month that we get from our power bill. Like I said, it was about $8,000 to $10,000, so it comes out to about $100,000 to $120,000 a year that we've got savings on our solar.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I think when you speak about diversification, naturally we want a financial windfall for the tribe, but I think as we diversify, we need to go out and get out into the communities, and a lot of the diversification our people may not want. We're a pretty close-knit family, and we don't want to bring to town something that our communities don't want. So I think diversification, I think we need to keep, everybody needs to have an open mind when we speak about diversification. And on the ecotourism, I think we're way behind the ball on ecotourism. We've got all the natural beauty. We've got 10 million visitors come to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park on an annual basis. We've got the waterfalls, the new bike trail up here, it's doing magnificent. And we've got ATV. I started the ATV project years ago. We've got basically around 30-some miles of ATV trails. I think we need to really start marketing the assets that the tribe already owns. So I think that's one thing that's crucial for the tribe to do, is market what we already have. So,
thank you, B. Jim, minute?
No.
And B, do you need any additional time? Next question is for you, B. Do you support monthly per capita disbursements as a means of universal basic income for tribal members?
This was quite a controversial issue when it first presented. I think if a family needs the money on a monthly basis to just make ends meet, I think it's good. I think we need to really work and teach our young kids and try to provide a job for them to make ends meet. But yes, if a family member needs it, I know it increases during the winter months for some reason. But yes, if a family member needs it to survive, I think it's a good thing as long as it's beneficial to the tribe and doesn't hurt any other enrolled members per cap, so.
Thank you, B. Jim?
No, I think what we have in place is working for each enrolled member. Those 18 and older can continue to apply for the $500 disbursement if they're eligible for that 6-month period. Monthly disbursements would have an adverse effect on those who are disabled or receiving SSI payments. I think it could possibly have a direct effect on our workforce. One thing to remember is, as of now, we have about 500 jobs in the last report I received that are available here on the reservation throughout our tribe and our other tribal entities who are looking for tribal members or anyone to work in those positions.
Thank you, Jim. B, an additional minute?
No, I'm good.
Anything else? Jim? All right. Next question is Jim's. With substance use disorder being an increasingly significant concern for tribal members, should the tribe harshen punishments, continue as is, or move to decriminalize illicit drug use? How do we aid our young people in getting help without the ills of the criminal justice system?
Well, let me answer the last part first. We should never decriminalize illicit drug use here on the reservation. We need to continue to educate our youth in each community and in our school system at early ages. When we have these inmates locked up, we need to educate them. We can bring over tribal programs, hospital staff, who this work is in their profession, to come over to the Justice Center and educate these inmates before they are released and sent to rehab units. But I believe in harsher punishments because we continue to see the same people over and over with cases being dismissed. So I think we just need to strengthen our laws and make them better for the court to use in their support.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I think we do need to strengthen our laws. As a sovereign nation, I think we have the ability to strengthen our laws and absolutely require, you mentioned the community service hours earlier. I think we could, like I said, as a sovereign nation, we have the right to kind of go outside the normal realm of the justice system to help combat the drug epidemic here. But at the same time, we need to do more things for the youth, keep them active. I think the more you keep people active, the better opportunities they'll have for themselves. So.
Thank you, B. Anything additional on this one, Jim?
No.
And B, any additional? B, this next question is yours. Do you think someone duly convicted of a felony should be allowed to run for tribal office?
I think the current law doesn't allow for that, but I think people who, I guess, are felons at a young age, if they do their time and serve or do their commitment in a correctional facility or whatever, I think it's up to the people to be allowed to vote for whoever they would like to vote for. I know the United States and the state you not allowed to, and even the tribal law doesn't allow it. But I feel like if you fulfill your debt to society and your people want you to run, I feel like you should be allowed to run. And just for the record, I am not a felon, so thank you.
Thank you, B. Jim?
No, the charter does not allow for that to happen right now. That would have to be a charter change. And it speaks specifically for felons not being able to run for office. So if that was going to happen, that would have to come out in a referendum vote to change the charter and get that to where it passed through a referendum.
Thank you, Jim. Anything else, B?
No.
Jim, any follow-up
No,
on that? All right. Jim, next question is yours. What is your stance on discontinuing drug testing of EBCI tribal employees?
I am in strong support of leaving in the drug testing in place. I feel like it works, and if you seek employment with the tribe or other entity, a drug test should not be an issue for your employment. I strongly support that we should leave the drug testing in place for the tribal council and executive offices also, and the boards who are being drug tested right now. In council, I sat there 14 years, and I got drug tested many times, and not once was I afraid to go take the drug test. And on this TCG board I sit on today, I don't ever fear of taking that drug test. So I think they work, and if you want to be employed by this tribe, then I think you should go through our drug testing policy.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I think this tribe is facing, like all the surrounding counties and the state, we're facing a drug epidemic. I think the random drug testing should be put back in the overall tribal policy or tribal code book. I think when it's there, it's law, and when it's policy, it's policy. I think I think it's a liability for the tribe. We have people on heavy equipment, dump trucks, et cetera, and I think it should start with the top from the executives down during drug testing. So, like Jim, I've served and been drug tested random for 22 years, and I'm in favor of bringing the random drug testing back. So if we're going to fight drugs, let's fight it. So,
Thank you, B. Jim, any additional?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with the random drug testing also. I felt like on council a long time ago that me and Abel Chacha was the only two that got drug tested. But I know that wasn't true, but I just felt like it was, and that's just poking fun. But yeah, I think the random should be brought back also.
Thank you, Jim. B, additional minute?
no, I'm good.
All right. B, the next one's yours. If the Catawba Indian Nation gets approved for a casino, what are your plans to help with any lost revenue?
I think this question really relates back to the diversification question. I think if the Catawba LLC is real successful, and I'm confident that it will be, I think that will be that's the first step to helping us combat situations like the Catawba may be proposing. So the more successful they are, and the more successful the tribal government is, specifically tribal council, making the entire tribe more efficient with the tribal employees, the tribal budgets, I think we'll be better prepared if that day ever comes. So,
Thank you, B. Jim?
Well, first, let's hope that never happens. I want to thank the chief and the council for being in Raleigh, being in D.C. to help us fight this issue. This is where the executive and council will work with the LLC board, and we can look at ways to diversify our economy. I will be a strong advocate in D.C. and Raleigh to help continue this fight also. And if the Catawbas are successful, we as a casino, we as a business here, we look at losing a projected $100 million. That's what our projection and losses are from the customers and the folks we get down from the Charlotte area, down in that area. So, you know, we'll continue to fight that fight and continue to work with the LLC board to find other revenue-generating businesses.
Thank you, Jim. B, any additional on this?
no.
And Jim, any additional? Jim, the next one's yours. What are your thoughts on cannabis and its economic potential for the EBCI?
Well, as of now, it is illegal. I don't support it. It's recreational use. I feel like it's just a gateway to other drugs. We have enough problems here with drugs right now that we don't need that. It's not just here. It's all the surrounding communities and all throughout the United States. But I just feel like we don't need it here for any recreational use. We'd have to look at the studies that have already been done for the medical part of it, the medicinal part of the marijuana, before I could make a decision. I understand that there could be some benefits from the medicinal marijuana for certain patients, cancer, seizures, things like that. And if that was so, I'd have an opportunity to probably support that if it came before us after reading all the studies. So I would not support the cannabis or marijuana.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I have the similar thoughts. I think cannabis needs to be looked at as, I guess, a diversification also, but it is not legal at this time, so I'm against it. But I am in favor of the medical marijuana, just as Jim stated. I've had, at first I was opposed to medical marijuana. Then I had a lot of cancer patients call that have prescriptions for medical marijuana. And without medical marijuana, some of them, one gentleman, he said, I'd be dead. I have no appetite unless I use the medical marijuana. So if cannabis could step up and provide some medical remedy like that, I'd be in favor of it. So,
Thank you, B. Jim, an additional minute?
Good.
And B, anything else on that?
no, I'm good.
B, are you comfortable with the current levels of transparency in government? Do you support public access to all government budgets and procedural documents?
I submitted an ordinance, I don't remember how many years ago. I see Teresa back here, so I don't know if she was on council, but I submitted the Freedom of Information Act years ago just to provide and be more transparent to all the enrolled members. I think if anything happens with the tribal monies, any enrolled member of this tribe should have access to that information. And unfortunately, we had to put an ordinance in place for that to happen. I don't, when people call me, I try to get the information for them, so yes.
Thank you, B. Jim?
Yeah, I think enrolled members should be entitled to see the budget. I think we should have more reports that go out from the chief, the vice chief, and council to their constituents. And I think we need to have more transparency so everyone can have the same ability to look at the budget and, you know, see what everybody's using on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, one of the two.
Thank you, Jim. B, an additional minute?
No, I'm good.
And Jim, anything further? Jim, have you read the recently proposed Constitution, specifically what is good and what is not about the document?
I have not seen the new Constitution, and I have not read it, but I do strongly support a new Constitution, and it needs to be put out to the public for review and comments, and let's get a final draft completed. Once complete, put it out to referendum for the people's vote to accept or not, and I want to thank all the people who had their hands in of working on this Constitution. I think they've done a good job. I'm looking forward to reading it and seeing what's in it. So thanks to those guys, but as of now, I have not read it.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I've read portions of it. I haven't sat down and read the whole thing from front to end, but there's a lot of things in there that I did agree with, and I had a lot of comments on it. I want to thank everybody who participated. This makes I guess the third attempt since I've been in the public office. A Constitution's been proposed. We definitely need one. I think the information, the way it was, I guess I don't want to say just too much information, but people feel like it's too much to vote on at one time. So I think, and I've told the committee or most of them, I've supported it, but I think it needs to be put out in sections, and we definitely need to start somewhere and move forward with that. So,
Thank you, B. Jim, any additional minute for this question?
No.
And B, do you need anything further on this question?
no.
B, the next question is yours. How do you change the EBCI working climate or environment so that there's no fear of political retaliation?
Like I said earlier, I think the personnel policy for years and years was in the code, and it was tribal law. I think from the executives on down, they need to be made aware of how many political positions it's going to take to run any particular office, and I think that number needs to be spelled out in the ordinance and put in law. That way, anybody below that level should be able to come to work on a daily basis and not fear of political interference or whatever. So,
Thank you, B. Jim?
I never think tribal employees should have to fear for their job. I think they should be able to come to work and work in environments that they were hired into. We need to let HR department do their jobs, along with the supervisor and managers do their jobs. And we have to distinguish between who the tribal employees are, a distinction between those guys, like B had just said, the distinction between them and appointed employees. Some of the appointed employees are hired by executive officers, so, you know, when a new chief or vice chief comes in, they have to realize that those positions wasn't hired positions, they were appointed positions.
Thank you, Jim. B, any follow-up on that?
no, I'm good.
And Jim, anything further on that question? Jim, what would you do to improve or balance housing opportunities for tribal members and needed workforce?
Well, my first priority is for all enrolled members to benefit from our housing programs, either on or off the boundary. We have a list of members who need housing, and when land is purchased, make that a priority for housing through those eligible or qualified. We also need to work on the survey process for sites to get that done in a more efficient manner. Now, for workforce housing, I mean, we could take a look at percentage-wise. I mean, we want to see all enrolled members into housing, but also we have we have workforce coming. We have a convention center being built, talk of a water park being built, talk of other projects here on the reservation being built or off the boundary being built. So we have to take a look at people that's going to come here to work. A lot of people cannot drive or will not drive from Asheville or Waynesville or further on out for $10.50 an hour. They couldn't afford to do that. But we need to look at workforce housing where they can live close to their job sites and have that opportunity to purchase a house or rent a house or an apartment, townhome, and be able to work here, because we will be looking at workers and needing workers.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I think the and I've dealt with housing for a long time. I think it's time. Our tribe has grown so fast over the past 20 years on the housing, and we've kind of fell by the wayside. And I think it's time that the executives and council has to sit down and review all the waiting list that we have from all of our enrolled members and develop a plan that we can put on the ground fairly quick to help them meet the need of the housing shortage here in Cherokee. So the workforce housing, I don't even know how many enrolled members we have driving to Cherokee every day, so it's definitely a need. I think we need to do whatever we need to do to meet the need of the workforce housing, because without the enrolled members plus the non-enrolled members coming to Cherokee to work for us every day, we couldn't operate as a tribe. So sometimes it gets a little hard to say we've got to do stuff for everybody, but the tribe has grown so big we can't help but to do that. So.
Thank you, B. Jim, any follow-up on this question?
I do not. Thank you.
Anything further from you, B, on this question?
No.
All right. This is one that you guys don't have on your list, but it's one that's been asked every night, so you've probably heard it before. And B, I'm going to ask you, Solid Care is in dire need of a new facility. Where is that on your priority list? And if it's not your top priority, please explain why.
It is my top priority. I've worked closely with Vicki Bradley for probably the past 7 years, I guess, trying to locate some property to build a new Solid Care. We visited back in, I don't know, a week or two ago, and the rooms and everything, they're just too small for the modern patient, I guess, or somebody staying in there. Our hospital rooms are about the size that we need for our Solid Care Center down there. In addition to that, we've got to put a new dialysis center in the Solid Care unit, or the new one. We have to put their patients from Solid Care and wheelchair them over to the dialysis center on a daily basis. And with the bad weather and the cold weather in the winter, it's just a bad situation. So it is number one on my priority list, and we're trying to locate land to build one now. So. Plus, you got to have a needs assessment and all that stuff from the state, so but much needed.
Thank you, B. Jim?
Yeah, it would be a top priority for me also. I wish that we would have taken a look at moving Solid Care in the dialysis center to the hospital when we had our old hospital torn down. I wish we could have incorporated that some way into the hospital where the patients in the Solid Care or the dialysis center would have been closer to our hospital, and they'd have been able to receive care faster if something would have happened at Solid Care or while they was on dialysis. But I'm in favor of looking for land to build the new Solid Care dialysis center. I think we have to get as close to the hospital as possible, and where the patients will have an opportunity to get there if they need that help.
Thank you, Jim. B, any additional on that?
No.
Jim, anything further on that
Thank
question? All right, thank you. Okay, we will now read the community questions that have been submitted tonight. Jim, now that the state of emergency has been declared concerning Cherokee language, what does this mean to you? And if you are elected, what would your administration do to uphold this declaration?
I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, sorry. Now that the state of emergency has been declared concerning Cherokee language, what does this mean to you? And if you are elected, what would your administration do to uphold this declaration?
Well, I think the language is one of our most important aspects of our tribe here. We got to get as many fluent speakers to continue to educate our young people. We need to continue to grow our immersion school, and however I can help to make sure that we continue the language, continue to grow the language, continue to grow our school there. I'm behind it 100% to whether it's funding, whether it's hiring more teachers, whether it's getting as many people there to help our kids learn the language and try to get back into our high schools, try to get it there as much as possible. So I support the language program wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I also support the language program. I was on council years ago when we started the GDUA program, and I had the opportunity to speak up there about a month ago, and I told them, I said, we don't realize that back when we supported and started the academy, the tribe was in bad financial state then, but we knew the importance of our language, and that's why we supported it regardless. We started out with very slim pickings for the academy, you know, but we've grown, and it's been good growth. I think we need to add another couple of grades to the academy to keep the kids there speaking our language on a daily basis. But yes, I do support the program and always have. So,
Thank you, B. Jim, any additional on this?
Yeah, I mean, I have a granddaughter who's in the immersion school right now, and if there's any teachers or staff here, I just want to say I thank you for helping her, and hopefully she stays in the immersion school and learns the language and can speak it fluently one day.
Thank you, Jim. B, any additional on this?
yeah, just one more thought. I think one thing that the immersion does alongside with teaching the toddlers when they come in, we have our seniors come in on a daily basis, and they record our seniors speaking our language so that the language won't never be forgotten or won't know how to speak it. And they discuss and see Mert. They sometimes they have heated arguments on how to pronounce words and stuff. So I think it's all good. So.
Thank you, B. B, this question is yours. What are your thoughts on the current legality of a Grand Council? What powers do you personally feel should be given to Grand Council?
I think I support a Grand Council. I think we need to sit down as a tribe and, based on the numbers of the tribe, come up with some good policy that we could have Grand Councils and honor them Grand Councils. And if you did the numbers and the percentages and had all that laid out beforehand, I think that would be a positive tool for the tribe, and the communities could come together. And if they voted on a resolution, and like I said, you had the percentages there to carry it, they could bring it on to the General Council for approval. So,
thank you, B. Jim?
I support the Grand Council. I think we have to have the policies and procedures in place that everyone understands, and we have to go by those once they're established. I know right now that they have called some Grand Councils in the past, and we just need to make sure that all policies and procedures are covered in that and followed.
Thank you, Jim. Any additional on this one, B? Anything else further from you, Jim? Next question is yours, Jim. What are 3 legislative achievements you are most proud of?
Well, there's probably the H-2B program that we had. We've had the, there's a lot of them. The building of the facilities that we do have now on the Valley River and the Harris Cherokee Casino, we've been part of that through the legislative process. The new hospital, part of that, having that ability to help build the new hospital up there.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I'm like Jim, there's been a bunch of them over the years, and me and Jim co-sponsored a bunch of them together too. So I think for me the dialysis center was the top one of the top projects. The last resolution I submit that I'm very proud of is the durable medical supplies. It's just for that, to buy durable medical supplies, wheelchairs, the oxygenators. I came in asking for $25,000, and council they opened it up a little bit, but it's been over $100,000 worth of medical supplies, and that just tells me that there was an unmet need there. So that's one of the top programs. I know a lot of people don't realize or know how the infrastructure program started, but years ago, HUD used to push out house sites get funding. The tribe would get funding to do house sites. We started the infrastructure program years ago when HUD cut that funding out. That helps from house sites to erosion control and so on. So gutter service for seniors and whatnot. So that's a top 3 that I can think of. But we like I said, we co-sponsored a lot of pieces of legislation. I supported all the gaming amenities, which allows us to do what we do today. So.
Thank you, B. Jim, any follow-up on this?
Well, we've done a lot of, added a lot of amenities. I mean, the bowling center could be one. All the things they've done at the Birdtown Gym down there for our seniors is another one. And upgrading Gadoo and fixing that was another good legislative piece that was in.
Thank you, Jim. B, any additional on it?
Well, just the Gadoo. I thought I had the thought down there this morning when we was down there with the Tri-Council. That was in '97 when I believe we purchased the Gadoo. fields down there, and that really catapulted our culture. It was kind of low at that time, our culture, our language and whatnot, but once we bought the mother town back and put it in the tribe, that just kind of enthused all the cultural aspect of the tribe. So,
Thank you, B. B, the next one is yours. A brewery has been proposed in the Yellow Hill community. What are your thoughts on this project and the Blue Ridge Law as it is being applied in the tribe currently?
to my knowledge, a brewery hasn't been applied for. So the Blue Ridge Law, it was put in place a couple of years ago, and I believe there's 3 licensed vendors in the Sanook Village area that can sell alcohol, I guess. So that's a part of the state law that we adopted. So along with the casino, it generates over $3 million just in excise tax that goes back into the communities, the schools, and whatnot. So there's like I said before, there's an educational piece to everything that I guess we lack in getting the information out to the community. So,
thank you, B. Jim?
I'm not aware of any brewery being applied for up there, and like B said, we follow the state law, the Blue Ridge Law, until that is changed or until we go into a different, use a different law. We'll have to abide by that law. As of now, there's 3 vendors who are set up in Sanook Village up here, and we can't treat one any different than we treat the other if they apply for a license. So that is up to the TABCC to grant those licenses. So that is on that board's shoulders to grant that license.
Thank you, Jim. B, any additional on this?
no.
Jim, anything further on this? All right, Jim, what are your thoughts on the importance of finishing the fiber infrastructure to every EBCI tribal community?
I can't hear you.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the importance of finishing the fiber infrastructure to every EBCI tribal community?
Did I hear it right? The fiber? The
Yes.
fiber optic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I support the fiber optic. I think we've had this in place for years and years and years, and I'm still waiting for it to take off and get put into every home, every community, and I would love to see it get put in every home, every community, through all our schools here, all the school systems, and I think it's time to light some of those wires up and some of those fibers up and start selling some of it also and making a profit off of it. When it was brought to us, it was going to be this money-generating revenue for the tribe, and I've yet to see any budgets or any money that it has generated, so I'd be curious to see of how much revenue it has generated for this tribe.
Thank you, Jim. B?
Yes, I support the fiber optics too. We started the broadband years ago and probably have $9 or $10 million invested in it. But like Jim said, we need to light them wires. Every person in here has a kid in high school or a higher ed. That's how they do their work these days, is on the iPad at home. So we've got to get the internet service into every home, and we've in the process of getting cell towers. That's just the start to this, getting fiber to every home. We proposed buying the Cablevision. Council passed it, and then they rescinded it. But I think that's the quickest route to getting fiber into everybody's homes, or the majority of the homes. I think we need to bring that back to the table and have a better discussion on that, just to get it there as soon as possible. So yes, I am in favor of it.
Jim, any follow-up on that?
No, sir.
And B, anything else you'd like to say? All right, B, in regards to the efforts to battle the drug epidemic in our community, what are you, as Vice Chief, going to do to ensure that the children affected will also get what they need in the recovery effort, specifically regarding but not limited to their mental health?
I think we start with education with the young kids in kindergarten. I think we have to start there, educate them on what the effects of drugs are, and I think it needs to come all the way through the school system. And we've got programs in place now, but we've got to develop programs, and we have a good start with the Mother Town program on the drug epidemic. But we've got to get these people off drugs and do different. One program ain't going to fit every enrolled member that's on drugs. We've got to, if somebody's got an opinion on how we can get somebody off drugs, well, let's try it. It may work on somebody. One protocol doesn't work for everybody. So, but all the way through we mentioned the community service workers, them inmates, when they're in jail, we need to bring them out, put them on community service hours, and hopefully they'll get, you may have to teach them work skills or how to run a power saw or whatever, but we can't give up on them. We've got to provide programs that's going to be beneficial to teaching them and making them become more productive citizens. So.
Thank you, B. Jim?
Yeah, education is key to this epidemic. I mean, we need to continue to educate our kids from the earliest part on, whether it's in our Cherokee Central schools or Kadua schools or our daycares. We need to make sure that we educate all those kids from day one. And we need to continue to fight that fight with all the programs we have here on the reservation. I would hope one day we'd win this battle. I know it's just an epidemic throughout the whole United States, but all the programs that we have to continue to use those programs. And, you know, we can't only talk about the youth. We have to talk about the 18-year-olds and up, and we have to talk about some of our adults. We have to continue to educate them and try to help them also through different programs, whether it's some kind of trade school, some kind of work program that they can get out in. Mothertown programs seem to be working, and I want it to continue to work. So we have to continue to provide different services for these people to get them off drugs, but continue to educate them also.
Thank you, Jim. B, any additional on this? And Jim, anything on that, on follow-up? Jim, in your own words, what is the role of Vice Chief?
I believe that the Vice Chief is there for the day-to-day operations. I think he's there to work with the Chief, to work with the Council, to make sure that the tribe is getting the best leadership that they can get. I think our role is to be in D.C. I think our role is to be in Raleigh to fight these issues, whether it's Catawba, whether it's Lumbee, or whether we're there for another issue. I think we have to interact with other Indian tribes. We have to find out what they've done to diversify their economy, to move forward with their programs. I think the Vice Chief is just it's a great opportunity, and I think that we have to have some of the tribal programs put back underneath the Vice Chief that we can oversee and take those in our day-to-day operations, that we're over programs and we're over these managers and stuff, and we work with them to better the tribe.
Thank you, Jim. B?
I think it's the Vice Chief's role, and it was totally different being put into that role, being a council member and being put into the Vice Chief. I thought it'd be similar, but it really isn't. You over day to day, you over all the programs at some point in time, and when the chief's in D.C., Raleigh, or wherever, people come to you for questions and answers, and it's just you got to be up to speed on every tribal program and about everything going on the reservation. But you just got to be aware of everything that goes on with the tribe, the laws and everything that's going on that affect the tribe with the gaming. You've got to be up to tune on just about everything dealing with the tribe and every aspect of it. So.
Thank you, B. Jim, any additional follow-up on that?
Yeah, and I think that one of the most important things is just to stay in touch with the people of the tribe, stay in touch with our enrolled members.
Thank you, Jim. B, anything?
Yeah, just when I first got there, I knew I felt like our tribe was divided. So I immediately went out to every community, and that was one of the first commitments I made to the communities, that I would go out and be involved with every community. So every community has a free labor group. So I really got involved in all the free labor groups, the community clubs, because the communities are the backbone of the tribe, and if you can get them all to work together as a tribe, we can go wherever we desire to go. So,
thank you, B. That concludes the questions. The candidates will now have 5 minutes each to make closing statements. And B, you're first.
I just want to say it's been an honor for the past 2 years to serve as the Vice Chief. I will continue to do what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm out in the communities on a daily basis, try to get even down to Snowbird and Cherokee County, I didn't know Great Creek went so far, Adam, till the other night I was down there, but that's a beautiful place. But the lady said, we've never had but a couple of people, and she named Adam and Bucky, but it's just, it's good to get out in the communities and hear and represent what the people of the communities want and expect of their tribal officials, and I feel like in my past experience, I can do that. We all have personal opinions on things, but that's not why I want to be your vice chief. I want to be there to represent what Wolftown or Big Cokeburg Town or whoever wants me to represent. That's what I want to. Why I'm running for election of vice chief. So it's been an honor serving so far, and like I said, I will continue to be out there on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, B. Jim?
Yeah, just a little bit about myself for the people who may not know me. I hope they do, but graduated Cherokee High School in 1980. I was joined the U.S. Navy from 1985 to 1989, where I had an honorable discharge. Came back and started working with the BIA Forestry Program from 1981 to 91. I went to work for the United States Postal Service from 1991 to 1999. From 99 to 2013, I served on our tribal council, served as chairman a couple of times, served as vice chairman a couple of times, and always loved being on the tribal council. Currently, I sit on the TCGE Board of Advisors from 2014 to present day, and married to Charlene Twinita Owl. We have 4 sons, Jim Bob, Jodon, Trey, and Dylan, and 5 grandchildren, Macy, Awie, Julius, Odie, and Piper. I feel like I bring a strong leadership value to the office of Vice Chief. I feel like my employment over the past years have helped me prepare me to lead our tribe into the future. I enjoy public service and giving back to our tribe. I will keep you informed of all topics that we face as a tribe. I will continue to work for tribal members, tribal programs, and our youth and our elders. I humbly ask for your support in this endeavor as Vice Chief on September 5th. Your vote will be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
B, Jim, thank you so much. We once again would like to thank the candidates for their participation and willingness to serve. We encourage all tribal members, regardless of who you vote for, to make your voice heard in the 2019 tribal elections. Exercise your right to vote. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Yep. Oh, yeah.